Whew. All right. Another day, another vlog. Good morning, Internet. This is Olin from What I'm Listening To. It is officially done. Holidays are over, and we're back to the day-to-day lifestyle, which is fine and somewhat sad, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to show more music. For Christmas, I was given $150 in Amoeba credit, which is incredible. My mom gave me 50, and a friend graciously sent me 100. Basically, they were just feeding my addiction. So with all that money, I decided to go on a bit of a shopping spree. On my day off, I went to the Berkeley store and picked out some things. And then later that day, my dad came to San Francisco and he also got some Amoeba credit. And we went to the San Francisco store where I bought even more things. So today I'm here to show you the things that I picked up between the two stores. I have some good ones here and I'm very excited to show them off. So without further ado, let's get going. Starting things off, this is a B-sides for Moby's album Play. So for those of you who don't know Moby, he is an electronica producer. He's been around for a very, very long time. His most famous album is an album called Play, which is the first album of his that I ever got and is fantastic. I remember first getting it and putting it on in the car. I didn't even have my license. I was still hitching rides with my parents. I put it on in the car and literally everybody in the car, my mom, my dad, and my brother were all like, "This is incredible. I want to borrow this." So I've had the album for years and years, and I've known about this one for just as long, but I'd never had really gotten a physical copy. I had always had it digitally, and it wasn't until just recently when I was reminded of this album because some of the cuts were playing at work, and I thought, oh yeah, I should go out and get that B-sides album. And because Moby has so much material, his music in Amoeba is kind of a dime a dozen, so this one was a relatively cheap buy. But it's got some really good cuts on here. Flower is easily the best track on here. Sunday is great, Memory Gospel is also good, Whispering Wind. I liked these sessions a lot because he sampled a lot of old blues and gospel songs, and adding his sort of down-tempo ambient productions made it really interesting and really cool. So yeah, now I'm happy to say that I have this plus the main album, both of them together. All of it is super good, and Moby's a great musician, and this one is worth checking out. The next album I have here, this is Codeine's second album, The White Birch. I picked up their first album, the Frigid Stars LP, a while ago. In fact, it might even have been featured in an old video, but I can't even remember which one it was. So this Christmas has come and gone, and I had received $100 in Amoeba credits. This is a band called Codeine. This one I got on a whim as well. What I do know about these guys is they were super, super influential in the slow sadcore genre. But I was shopping around and I stumbled across Codeine in the store and I saw this album. I had seen that it was once $7.99, it was dropped down to $2.99, and considering that they only have 2 albums, I figured I should just get this one just to have it. They are a fantastic band. They are the pioneers of the slowcore genre. They're a little different from bands like Low or Red House Painters in the sense that their take on slowcore is much more heavier and a little more experimental, which is what I really like because Low kind of sets a gentler tone for the slowcore genre. So to hear kind of sad and gentle music with some angst and some heavy guitars is a really interesting mix. I'm sad that they're no longer together, otherwise they'd probably be pumping out more quality albums, but they're legends and they live on with albums like these. The next album I have here, this is Jesu's first self-titled album. I have known about this band for quite some time, and Steve the Roommate is responsible for introducing them to me. To backtrack a little bit, Steve the Roommate was in an old band back when we were both living in our hometown, and he had done this song called Shields. It was so heavy and emotional and just, it was so cool. It's one of my favorite songs ever, I can easily say, and I'm not saying that because he's my friend. I legitimately love that song. He told me the inspiration behind that song was Jesu's Opiate Sun. So I listened to Opiate Sun and was blown away by it. It was everything that I had wanted to hear. And that was my formal introduction to Jesu. But I never really pursued listening to anything else, just that one EP. And browsing music forums, I would see this album floating around, particularly best albums for drone metal or shoegaze. So finally, I found a copy of it for relatively cheap, and because I had gift cards, I invested in it and got it. It's a little more raw sounding than Opiate Sun. Opiate Sun's a much more later release, and this one must have come out maybe in the late 90s. Opiate Sun came out in the mid-2000s. It's a great album. I love how heavy it is, also kind of droney and shoegaze. It's everything that I like in music. The next album I have here, this is a band called Comets on Fire. Yet another band I've known about for quite some time. This is actually technically a rebuy in the sense that I had purchased this digitally and liked it so much that I went out and got a physical copy of it. Their music is just so awesome. It's like this really weird blend of psychedelic garage rock, but there's also some blues elements to it. Of all the albums that they've done, this one is easily my favorite. And it's released off the Alternative Tentacles label, which is run by the Dead Kennedys' Jello. Great band, great sound. Highly recommend checking out this album and checking out their other albums if you like it, but personally, this one is my favorite. The next album I have here, this is a Crystal Castles album, their first one to be exact. I have known about this album for a while too, but unlike the others, I've known about it, but I've never actually gone out of my way to check them out. I would see this cover float around on the internet or just in record stores in general. It's appeared on best albums of all time lists, but once again, never actually went out of my way to check them out. I finally stumbled across a copy of this album, and I got it because, one, I thought I needed to check it out, but I also got it because it's got Luciano's recommendation sticker. If you watch any of my past vlogs, you know that basically anything that has a sticker on it, I'll check out because I love his taste in music. I know that they're an electronic band, but I know that they're a little different from other electronica albums, a little more experimental. This one might even be a little chiptune-y. So I'm really looking forward to check it out. I'll have to get back to you all when I finally listen to it. I'm just excited to have it and really get to know these guys formally. Okay, the next album I have here, this is Smog's Knock Knock. The head guy behind Smog is a dude by the name of Bill Callahan, and he's been around in the indie world for quite some time. The first album of his I ever listened to was Rain on the Lens, which I really dug. It was a really interesting take on folk in the sense that he used more electric guitar than he did acoustic guitar, and the songs were just kind of murky and grimy, but the lyrics were very well written and told very good stories. The reason I got this album is because I heard the song Teenage Spaceship and was mesmerized by it.
Flying alone, a teenage spaceship. It was a teenage spaceship.
It is a gorgeous song, and it was a little different from what I had heard in the past. This album is actually a little more on the poppier side. It's not nearly as muddy as Rain on Lens, but I really like that because it really shows that of all the albums he does, they're not all gonna sound the same. He kind of experiments. And best of all, this album is produced by Jim O'Rourke and has Lauren Massican Connors featured on a couple of the songs. Both of those guys are renowned in the experimental world, and I'm a total sucker for their music. So to have them on this album was more than enough reason for me to buy it.
Let the jets fly, not wishing for their destruction.
The next album I have here, this is a compilation featuring music by the Only Ones. Normally, I don't pick up compilation or best of albums, but I got this one for a couple different reasons. One, because it was the only one album that I could find between two Amoebas, just compilation albums. And two, the only reason I really wanted something by these guys is for the song Another Girl, Another Planet. I know what you're thinking, that's their biggest hit, of course that would be the reason why I got this album. But I was out with some friends at this restaurant, and they played a lot of old 70s punk, and amongst the songs they played that one. And after that outing, I had the song stuck in my head for a good 3 or 4 days. I would find myself just kind of humming or singing it out loud, and I thought, damn it, I really need to get something by these guys just so I can listen to the song and get it out of my head. So I picked up this album. It's got a lot of stuff on here, and I kind of figured if I can get by that song, I'll check out their other stuff. There's 21 songs, so I'll definitely be investing in what these guys have.
I think I'm on another world with you. I'm on another planet with you. Another girl, another planet, another girl, another planet.
The next album I have here, a relatively newer artist. This is Julia Jaclyn. My friend Kai actually recommended this artist to me. She's really into folky sounding music. She loves Angel Olsen, Joni Mitchell, and Big Thief. In fact, she introduced me to Big Thief. So she told me to check this girl out, and I listened to a cut off this album and was immediately interested. It sounded like a much more stripped down version of Big Thief. Had a nice country sound while also staying very modern, which is what I really dug. Found it for super cheap in Berkeley and decided to pick it up, hear the rest of the album. I'm excited to check out the rest of the stuff on here. So far what I've heard I've really liked, and I recommend checking out this stuff if you're a fan of country or folk music.
Oh, I wanna give you all of my love, but I watch you sink as they swim above. You are the land, and I am the dove.
And then I thought I was done, but then I got lost in the bluegrass section at the Berkeley Amoeba and then found this album here. This is a guy by the name of Jack Rose, and this is his album Kensington Blues. Jack is a really interesting guitarist. His roots are very bluesy and folky, but he doesn't play traditional blues or folk sounding material. His approach is very experimental and improv. He played in a band called Pelt for a very long time, and then eventually Pelt dissolved and he started releasing solo albums, and he even collaborated with other bands like the Black Twig Pickers, which is another great experimental blues band. I've been meaning to actually look for something by him, but I could never find any of his CDs. When I stumbled across this one, I decided, shit, I gotta buy it. I really need to listen to this guy formally. Sadly, Jack is no longer with us, but his legend lives on with albums he's put out, either solo albums or albums with Pelt. I'm really looking forward to listening to this one. I love experimental music, particularly if they're taking a pre-existing genre and giving it a new twist. I'm very interested to hear the stuff that's on this. It should be a really fun listen. Okay, Internet, that does it for me. Hey, if you have any albums or songs or bands you want me to check out, leave a comment down below, and if I like it enough, maybe I'll include it in a vlog. But until then, this is Olin from What I'm Listening To, signing out. Goodbye.